Let's just lay out the foundation of what we know right now. For the month of February, Paul George has not scored over 20 points. Joel Embiid and the team are working on what's next when it comes to his knee, because his knee is legit hurt again, and they're saying he's probably going to have surgery, which essentially means you're probably out for the season again. You build a team around a big three: Paul George, Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey. But the issue, and the thing that never really gets talked about, is you build a team around the big three. If the big three is not available, if the big three can't play, if the big three has injury concerns, and as we're seeing, injury realizations, then you're building a flawed team. Paul George isn't 100%, but no one's going to feel bad for him because he's on the court. And he continues to make statements. And that's, boy, Paul George coming out saying that we're nowhere close to a championship, or we don't give off the look of a championship team or a playoff team. Paul George, you're one of the biggest reasons why. You're one of the highest paid players in the NBA, bro. They brought you to Philly because they thought that you were the missing piece to a championship caliber team. And you have been god awful. You've been consistently mid, which in your standard has been god awful. The fans have turned on you quickly. And one of the reasons why I said that this is probably the worst situation in basketball is because now you have two players who you would think by the name, by the production, by the history would be, I'm not going to say easy, but would be tradable and can fetch you a mini to large haul in Paul George and Joel Embiid. But now if you sit here and think about it, no team is going to touch either one of them. Meaning the only trade piece you essentially have is Tyrese Maxey. But if you get rid of Tyrese Maxey, that's not only affecting your future, that's essentially saying you're starting another rebuild, because Tyrese Maxey is the only consistent thing that you have. But I can't say that this has come as a shock to anyone. I think that's why the Philadelphia 76ers fans are so upset. It's not because of where the team is now, as much as this, you could see this in the future. Again, you're dealing with two players in Paul George and Joel Embiid that have extensive injury histories. One of which, Joel Embiid, in fact, I think both of them are hurt. They're saying Paul George has to take drugs just to play. Not like those type of drugs, but has to take like shots and stuff just to play, to deal with pain. Joel Embiid can barely walk. And while yes, if you take not even early years, because he was hurt in his first year. If you take MVP Joel Embiid, if you take Indiana Pacers, if you take Oklahoma City Thunder Paul George, then yes, that trio, Paul George, Tyrese Maxey, and Joel Embiid, those iterations of them is a legit big three, and is for sure a championship caliber team. Also have Kelly Oubre. You also have Eric Gordon. Those are championship caliber players. But you don't have Pacers, Thunder, Paul George. You don't have MVP Joel Embiid. You have a Paul George that I guess is looked at to be the leader, but it's very hard to be the leader when you're not playing up to the expectation that the team and that your play warrants you to have. There's no one in the Philadelphia 76ers organization that probably looks at Paul George as a leader, or at least if they do look at him as a leader, every single time they see him, every single time they hear him talk, it has to be with a side eye, because it's like, how are you going to tell me? How are you a leader? But here's the thing. Yes, it is very much true that the leader of a team isn't necessarily the best player, or isn't always necessarily the best player. You would like for it to be, but that's not always the case. Sometimes the leader of a team is just the best. For instance, while yes, the best player on the Golden State Warriors is Steph Curry, I think the leader, and as we've seen with these with the championships, and as we've seen with the Andre Iguodala jersey retirement, the leader was Andre Iguodala. The leader was Draymond Green. Steph and Clay clearly were the better players and best players, and KD was the best players, but the leaders was Draymond Green and Andre Iguodala. You would think and you would hope, if you're the 76ers, that the leaders is Joel Embiid and Paul George. However, Joel Embiid is never available due to injury. So how are you going to look for him to be the leader when he hasn't given you anything to lead by? He has one MVP year. But even in that year, he has yet to make it to a conference championship. How can you look at Paul George to be the leader when most of his highlights over the last few years have been on his podcast? And it's like, it'd be different if Paul George is your leader, but he's shelling out 27, 28, 29 points a game, they're still losing. But it's like, all right, yeah, he's the leader of the team. He's doing everything that he can. It's just we're not producing wins. No. Paul George, again, in the month of February, he has not scored 20 points. And don't get me started on the contract extensions. The contract extensions that was given to Paul George, that was given to Joel Embiid, essentially hampering this team. Because again, I don't know a team that is going to touch Paul George or Joel Embiid with a 10-foot pole just because of their injury history. Again, if you're getting the Paul George of old, if you're getting the Joel Embiid of old, then yeah, it makes sense. But you're not. You're getting a Paul George now that talks to the media talking about we're not a championship caliber team, yet Paul George has never been to the championship. That's one. Two, he says that they're not a playoff. They don't have any resemblance of a playoff team, which is true, but a lot of that is because of your play and the fact of you have been. There's a reason why, this kind of spills over into the topic of worst contracts. It's like, why do people consider some contracts the worst in whatever sport? Like, why was Russell Wilson's contract with the Denver Broncos, considered one of the worst contracts in NFL history? And I think you can open up that conversation and say, why was that contract not considered that when they gave it to him? You see, when the Sixers gave Paul George that contract, it wasn't considered one of the worst in NBA history. It wasn't considered one of the worst in the NBA today. Your play makes it what it is. Russell Wilson He pretty much got none of the return. Now I think a lot of it was due to the surroundings, but Russell Wilson didn't. It didn't help that he didn't play great. Paul George has turned into one of the worst contracts in the NBA because his production hasn't come anywhere close to the contract that he received. Man. So now again, if you were to try to trade for Paul George, you're getting a very expensive player that clearly is dealing with injuries right now, and you would pretty much have to. He's a superstar. He has a superstar contract attached to him, and he has not played anywhere close to superstar status. Same thing with Joel Embiid. The only thing that you have to his resume at this point is he has an MVP, but this is yet another year where it's probably going to get cut short. I think we've probably seen the last of Joel Embiid in a Sixers uniform this year, or at least this season, because reports are saying he's probably going to need another surgery. And I don't think either one of their extensions kick in yet. Boy. And then what do you do with Tyrese? I think Tyrese Maxey just signed a deal, but like you're paying three people that much money, and you're not even you probably won't even make the playoffs. That is insane. You're paying three people damn near the max, and you're probably not making the playoffs. Talk about reality. Philly has become the most tough situation, and they have the most tough situation in the NBA. Oh, man, you stayed to the end of the video. I appreciate you. If you like what you saw, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you'll never miss any content from your boy. You can also go back and watch past episodes, past clips, and don't forget that the Unpopular Podcast, new episodes drop every Wednesday and Saturday. Appreciate you.